This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
We All Be is an honor to have on once again the one and only, the incomparable, truly beyond category, Judge Joe Brown, to let us know what's going down, not only in your town, but all around the world. How you doing tonight, Judge?
All right, young man, I'm doing okay.
That's good. I just want to let you know that the conversation we had about Bill Cosby, it definitely went viral. People really thoroughly enjoyed your commentary and point of view and perspective and analysis on the Cosby thing. But I know that, these things are kind of trivial in this era of bread and circuses. But I got to get your point about, your take on the Kanye West and Jim Brown visit to the White House last week. Your thoughts about that?
It's nothing new. Nothing new. The penultimate one in the last long while was the one that Booker T. Washington paid to the Theodore Roosevelt White House. And that didn't even have half the justification. But, politics make strange bedfellows.
Yes, sir.
I won't get on Jim Brown too much. But Kanye Kardashian, land of the lost. I don't mind him supporting Trump so much. It's just that instead of having a particular point, he comes across like a sycophant, Sycophant.
Hey, Joe, can you speak up? I'm having like a coming through.
He made a strange statement. He didn't come up exposed to manhood, but he felt somehow or another, he felt like part of that cause with that make America great again thing. That, though, speaks volumes and explains a lot of things, not just about him, but about us in general. We have so diminished the role of man in the black neighborhood that it's become pathetic. We had a sorry, effeminate excuse for a black president for 8 years who did nothing. And now we've got all of these, just a herd of black female of representatives of this, that, and the other who are aspiring to high office that seems to now be beyond the black man, if there are any out there still remaining on the national political level, but too many of them are sweet boys and sweet elders, so, they've got a different kind of persuasion. It's somewhat disappointing,
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. But Kanye Kardashian is out there doing his thing to, I guess, make himself relevant to something, what I haven't figured out yet. But, he's trying. But it's just reflective of a bigger overall problem where individuals who have the ear of the many are celebrities, but what they're celebrities for has very little, if anything, to do with being wise in the ways of the world, especially in socioeconomics and politics.
Mm-hmm.
That goes for white folk and us too. So it's what it is.
But what about, I had a chance to listen to the 19-minute whole whatever he rant or whatever it was, And do you think he made some good points about, telling Donald Trump do not pursue stop and frisk in Chicago, about freeing like it's Larry Hoover, about bringing jobs back to the inner city, about changing the educational curriculum? Do you think he had some valid, or even the 13th Amendment? Do you think he had any valid points in all that stuff he was talking about?
13th Amendment was just out somewhere in left field.
Mm-hmm.
The stop and frisk in Chicago, that's not up to Trump. He has nothing to do with it. It's local politics and local laws. The feds have no jurisdiction, except maybe where the FBI or the DEA is doing something. But those two entities don't do any significant amount of patrolling in Chicago. So it was basically just nonsense. The other thing, too, is it still gets into that flavor of what are they going to give us instead of what do we take. That still makes me feel a little bit queasy in the stomach. Our propensity at this late removed from the Civil War to still think in terms of what are white folk going to give black folk or let them have.
Mm-hmm.
Anything somebody lets you have, you don't have. You have to be in a position to take it and keep it. You let the cow out the barn, you can put it back in. The cow kicks the damn barn door down and gets out. That's a different proposition.
What are your take? I mean, Donald Trump said he was looking for people to, I guess, free, quote unquote. And I think about what's going on now with all this stuff about so-called being woke, and the situation with Jamil Al-Amin, formerly known as H. Brown, is very disturbing to me. Are you familiar with his situation right now with the gag order in jail or prison?
What happened now?
You remember H. Brown from back in the day, Snick and all that?
I remember him, yeah.
But he got caught up in that situation when they alleged that he shot and killed one sheriff deputy and seriously wounded another one back in 2000, I believe, out in Atlanta. But my understanding, that's been almost 16 years ago since he's been, found guilty. But there's a guy in prison right now who admitted to actually shooting at the police, who actually got the wounds from that incident that he was trying to get help for. And they basically railroaded this guy. He can't even talk to reporters or journalists or academics about his situation in prison. Like, they've been moving him around. I think at one point he was at Supermax. At first he was in Georgia in prison, but they moved him to Supermax out in Colorado. I'm not sure where he's at now, but he's been under some type of unofficial gag order. And they've been really just torturing his human and civil rights. And this is a guy.
Who, Brown?
Yeah, Brown. He stood up for black people. He dedicated his life. I mean, he was cleaning up.
I don't have any problems with him. He did his thing. He made the sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
That's what more people need to do. I don't have any problems with him at all. It's a tragedy that he's in there. He originally got put into prison because of mild out Iran Korea with the US organization.
Mm-hmm.
They supplied him with a carbine and then promptly told law enforcement that he was going to be taking it on board an airplane in his luggage, which he wasn't supposed to do since he had a pending charge. But they set him up for that. So you can blame some black folk for putting him in jail. Those are the people that started Kwanzaa, by the way, which is one of the reasons I don't celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've talked about that before.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I feel sorry for him. He got caught up in a thing where he was beyond the people he was trying to lead.
I mean, because he was cleaning up that neighborhood. Like, he had that in West Atlanta, he had that neighborhood on lock in terms of really just making it a community that's safe for people and children and older people.
Yeah, but, the interests in Atlanta aren't really concerned about safe neighborhoods. It's in their interest for those neighborhoods to be violent and out of control. That keeps them from being cohesive voting blocks. It keeps the good folks scared, so they worry about personal safety rather than getting ripped off economically.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps the areas depressed, so when somebody comes along and does something about it, that's not good for their home front.
Yeah, because, I mean, they cleaned up the neighborhood. They got the drug dealers out the neighborhood and whatnot. And that's, They've been trying to get them since the '60s, as you say. But what if somebody like Kanye West, like Malcolm X said, by any means necessary? What if Kanye West, as the so-called court jester, could get in the ear of the president to say, "Oh, do you mind, letting A.L.L out of jail, or Mumi Abu Jamal, or
You could
pardoning
do that,
Assad
but
Shakur?"
they took a worse little scumbag babe, Johnson, and got her out after she was crack mama for a number of years and responsible for supplying all of the crackheads and fiends that turned out all these crack babies and had all these drive-bys in the late 80s and early 90s. You know, they don't know what they're talking about. They just got this idea that they're running with, which is crazy, about there should be nobody locked up for anything, which is not cool, because if we acted all right, fine, but, we're our worst enemy. It's not white folk coming in and burglarizing our homes, robbing from our stores, pulling off strong-arm to armed robberies on us as we get out of our cars, going to the front door. It's not white folk coming down where we live and raping the women. It's not our white people going in and doing the drive-bys. We've got police in there that are going around murdering folk, some of them, but, that's sort of like you bring it on yourself sometimes. And then all of the badasses that are supposed to have all this, that, and the other going, they can't keep the police out. They aren't even trying. And when you get downtown and you get a video of their confessions and admissions and everything, they've got snot running out of their nose and crying and begging for their mamas. So it's all the front off. We lack manhood in our neighborhoods. If you had more manhood in the hood, it wouldn't be like it is.
Okay, well, that speaks to Kanye's point. I mean, Kanye was talking about black folks being more accountable for our actions and for our communities. And in that 19-minute speech, he talked about that.
He doesn't. Look, see, that's political hype. If you wanted to do something, go study to find out what the devil is really wrong. You get to talking about pipeline from schoolhouse to jailhouse. It isn't the way it's being presented. It's got to do with something else entirely. It's got to do with not enough jobs to go around, and what they're doing is reducing the number of laborers in the labor market. It's not trying to get free labor out of people in the joint. They don't want the free labor in the people in the joint. It's not about lack of rehabilitation, because they won't have rehabilitation, because rehabilitation just keeps the job market glutted. And there are a lot of white people that will get up and fight about something that they don't want mad, so they don't play Timothy McVeigh, get 250 pounds of common fertilizer and blow up another courthouse. See, that's what they're worried about. So it's much better that we just tear up our own neighborhoods and give them an excuse to go pipeline us to the jailhouse, and we don't pay any attention to the schoolhouse. So, we got to talking about that peripheral matter to Fort Pillow. Your mother was doing a project on that.
Yeah, the historic market, yes, sir.
After the Civil War, it turned out that the only completely literate units in the whole Union Army were black soldiers. You never saw a black soldier without a book and without something to practice his writing on. What happened? Grades K through 12, that's the foundation for having a happy life. And we just neglect it. Nobody at home to tell the children to go pay attention to it, because nobody at home where they live seems to realize it. And they don't have the gumption, except for a very few, to go do it on their own, irrespective of the difficulties. It's still essentially free. Get through 12th grade and do well, just pay some adequate amount of attention to it. The rest of your life is what you want it to be.
What about go ahead, I'm sorry, Judge.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the Larry Hoover piece. I think, we are missing alpha males. I mean, Larry Hoover was a gang leader that was well respected in the streets. They had a code up in Chicago. You know how Chicago rolls with the gangsterism.
Yeah, but it still ain't a man thing. You don't run rackets where the victims of the rackets are your own people. You know, the Italian mafia, they don't run those rackets where they live. I mean, somebody wants about the only one they run inside is the, you know, lending money, loan sharking. That's about all. You know, the prostitutes, they don't work in the Italian communities and they're not Italian women. The drugs aren't sold in Italian communities. It's sold somewhere else. The gambling, you know, that's everybody, but gambling's gambling.
Right.
And the little old ladies are safe to walk where they want to. Nobody will mess with them. The old folks get their pension checks, and the young women are, you know, have protection from rape. Now, what can you say we do in our neighborhoods? And then you set up a situation where you don't break it down into there are the gangsters and then there are the civilians, and the gangsters don't let stuff happen with civilians. You know, that's not what happens where we live. So respect out on the streets, like respect for what? Respecting the wrong thing. That's not manhood.
Well,
Men have an obligation to clean up where they live and make it a better, safer, more secure, more prosperous place filled with economic opportunity, ethics, and some sense of morality and purpose. Now, if you're not doing that, you're not doing man stuff.
I mean, wow, I think people really enjoy their point of views. What about the situation where Kanye is an artist, he's an entertainer, but where is the leadership? Where is the so-called black leadership addressing some of the things he tried to address? Maybe he failed in articulating it to a certain situation, but where is black leadership right now?
Okay, you know me. You've known me for a while. What do you find me tweeting? The stuff that's the good stuff. How many followers do I have? I'm just a few off of 4,000 now. I've been doing it a little over a year. But the bottom line is you can come in and start tweeting nonsense about, yeah, Hollywood, I loved it when I visited. Or, yeah, look, check it out. We was partying hard. Or, yeah, you know, Kanye and Kim, they was doing it. And you look down and they got 56,000 followers for stupidity and nonsense. See, it's not that some people aren't trying. There are other people that are trying. They're trying to learn, but they don't get any PR. And the stupid thing is we don't listen to our own people. We listen to the media to tell us who to listen to. And we hear those people they put in front of us.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking that one thing that Malcolm X and Donald Trump understood well is the power of the media to influence people and control their minds.
Yeah, and Trump knows how to work it rather than being subjected to it like so many have. That's one thing he's good about. He told the media to go to hell, which they need to be told. They have gotten entirely too much control over what goes on, and they're too irresponsible, and they have an agenda which is an anathema to ordinary, normal people.
Yeah, a person got to start thinking for themselves, like, why are they trying so hard to make them look so bad?
Who, Kanye?
Like Trump. They trying so hard to make him look so horrible.
Oh, they hate him because he's a man. They got this sissified feminist agenda they've been running for 50 years, and all these sycophants have come in, turned their butts up, dropped their boxes, and bent over and grabbed their ankles for anybody and everybody to go work them. And you have somebody, irrespective of his general politics, who tells them to go to hell. They ought to be glad Trump's in there, because without Trump, there would be a very bad backlash that would be starting just about now. Not this feminist backlash. I'm talking about man backlash. And see, men are the ones that wage war and commit violent, really violent acts. So these feminists are running around gloating with their power. They are forgetting stuff like incel. Are you familiar with incel?
No, what's that? Tell me, sir.
There's some nerds, dweebs, dorks, some lame white boys or some lame nerds, because I'm sure they have some colored ones too, who are virgins. They have never been laid, and they blame feminists for depriving them of their right to nookie.
Wow.
So they have basically had this thing they've come up with of death to females. Remember this thing in Toronto where this guy ran over all these people in a crowd in a van?
Yeah.
That was an incel person who was out to go end the feminist threat. And see, these characters are out there woman-hating, wanting to kill some.
Like the mass shooters, a lot of them tend to like have issues with women, it seems.
Yeah, but it's incel. If you go to their sites, you'll see.
How you spell it?
INCEL.
Okay. So they're not a terrorist group? They're not labeled as a terrorist organization?
I don't know. I don't like to use that word terrorist, because who's terrified? Are you? I'm not.
No, I'm not.
It's supposed to be land of the free, home of the brave.
But are they white identity extremists, though? You know how they started black identity extremists? Are they white identity extremists?
Come up with the word extremist. Don't come up with the idea of terrorist. That punks the whole thing out. Land of the free, home of the brave. And the whole terrorist thing was an idea proposed by Lieutenant General Tui Spots of the United States Army Air Force and a guy named Tedder Harris, Sky Marshal Harris of the RAF in World War II. They proposed it to Churchill and to FDR, which was coming up with round-the-clock bombing of Germany to terrorize the population. The theory is that the German soldier was an extremely brave man. You could not intimidate him. So since you couldn't get to him, let's terrorize his women and children and elders, and they will talk to the soldiers and say, you need to do something about this Hitler guy and the Nazis. It didn't work, but that was the theory.
Wow.
So the whole idea of terrorism was a U.S. idea.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Let's get away from terrorism, call them extremism, anarchist, or something else, but I'm sick to death of this word terrorism. You get all of these clowns running around with all of these people, black, white, brown, red, yellow, who died, sacrificed, been mutilated, suffered to get some modicum of personal liberty and freedom, and these fools want to give it up for some minor collateral damage.
Yeah, but you know who
you're scared. See, it's the feminization of the republic. 50 years ago, this would have never worked because you couldn't tell the republic that it was going to be terrified of a scant few things like this happening.
Yeah.
It's collateral damage that comes along with being free. And that's one of our problems as a people, black people. We don't understand that free is not free and it's not safe. It's got some consequences, and we aren't apparently willing to pay those consequences. We get the results of not being free when we get collateral damage done all day long to our sorry condition. We have a drug problem, which is not because fools are trying to get high. They're trying to die. They're suicidal because there's no daylight at the end of their tunnel. You have drive-bys and senseless violence, not because you've got a bunch of brave predators, but because you have people who are suicidal and want to die, but don't have the nerve to pop a cap on their own heads. They want to provoke somebody into doing them the favor of taking their lives. See, we've got a miserable situation because we sublimate what ought to be done in the name of manhood. And it's a man's job to do this for his community, not women. See, we're supposed to be protecting them, and we don't. We depend on them. Our leadership is now all female, and they've got wretched little creatures like this career prosecutor, Kamala Harris. And having worked in the criminal justice system 40 plus years, I'll tell you, any career prosecutor is a corrupted individual. There are very few exceptions, and she's not one. You can look at her donor list, and you'll see everybody that she should have been prosecuting is donating to her campaigns. She's just as crooked as anybody can be, and she's got a lifetime habit of being in a courtroom wearing little short dresses and getting male judges who are lusting after her little cute legs to say, "Oh, leave Miss Harris alone." So we don't need that. They keep talking about this woman, that woman running for president. Hell, we need somebody that can break the mold. Bernie Sanders was great. A lot of people say Bernie needs to drop dead. No, hell, no. The rest of that sorry bunch of sycophants that's still off on that campaign to emasculate the republic is an anathema to anybody with good sense. And both parties are about the same. They become completely sissified, and their interests are those of LGBTQ and the feminists, not ordinary people. Their interests are big oil on the Republican side and to an extent on the Democratic side. On the Democratic side and the Republican side, it's Goldman Sachs. And they are owned, both of them, lock, stock, and barrel by the people that have paid them off so that they can retire in great comfort toward the ends of their political careers.
Wow.
See, so we aren't getting what we think we get. And the media is part of it too, because the main agenda for both parties at the top is anti-masculinity, make it good for LGBTQ and feminists. Now, I say that with the understanding that they have a First Amendment right to advocate and do as they can do if it's not against the law. If we are stupid and silly enough to go along with it in the name of being politically correct, that's our problem. It's good for them. It's their right to seek it, but their overall program is not good for the rest of the nation. And it's certainly not good for our communities.
And Judge, you said a mouthful right there. So many things I think about, like you brought up Kanye, and I also think about the fact that somebody they trying to run for 2020 is Michelle Obama, and she posed in pictures with George W. Bush Jr., telling everybody that's her partner in crime, kiss him on the cheek, whatever. They bosom buddies, but nobody complained about that. This is the guy who helped bring in the era of war on terror.
Yeah, and see, here's the thing too. The Sotoros and the Bushes are long-term family friends. Who's Sotoro? That's Barry Sotoro, a.k.a. Barack Obama.
Right. So they all partners in crime.
Yeah. See, Barack Obama's real name, since he got it changed before he was 2 years old by his adopted father, Lolo Sotoro, is officially Barry Sotoro. Barry Sotoro is an Indonesian oil tycoon who died one of the richest men on earth. And Barry grew up in one of the richest households on earth. And he goes around acting like he is one of us when he didn't even set foot in the continental United States until he was in his mid-20s, damn near.
Wow.
8 years, and the lame ass didn't do a damn thing for us. What about Obamacare? That is a Republican senior senator from the state of Tennessee, Dr. Bill Frist, Senate Majority Leader for the GOP. That ain't Obama thing, nothing. That's a crock, and it's a fop for the big medical insurance companies, who also control most of the generic pharmaceutical companies, who are the real problems, not the ones that get out and spend the money inventing new drugs. But anyway, we got a bill of goods that we bought. We listened to Hollywood, and Hollywood for 50 years has been trying to turn the whole country, the whole world into a bunch of sissies.
Oh, well, I'm thinking about all the judge. You give me so much to think about when you talk, because I'm thinking about what Kanye, he was honest about being a little bit effeminate, lacking that, that male energy. But I also think about Terry Crews, who said almost some of the same stuff that Kanye said in terms of, he talking about how Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, the white guys, were his role models. They were the man he had to look up to because he didn't have men around him to look up to growing up.
Isn't that pathetic?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense when you think about what happened to
the
him.
White women are trying, not all white women, but too many of them who are feminists, and they're black sycophant female running girls, I guess, are trying to do that for everybody else and trying to do it to white men too. By the way, did you see that where the judge dismissed those charges against Weinstein?
Yeah, that was interesting. But he fought. He was aggressive with his stuff. I mean, Cosby was too laid back for me.
Well, Cosby was older and infirm, but you had a better judge. And then you see this thing with Cosby's judge. His wife had a financial interest in it.
Right.
She threatened not to give him any nookie, I guess. So he let everything get out of control in his courtroom. Very poor show. That's what I did to earn a living for a while. I know.
Yeah.
That was not a good show.
Okay, you got Weinstein and you got Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice. Now, I mean, they say they got a better deal than Cosby did.
Oh, yeah. But they're white.
So it is about race.
Yeah, of course there's a race component in there, and there is a gender component in there. See, if you want to, in America, if you want to do something to prove a point, you start with black people, particularly black males. You want to get freedom and equality for Jews, and what you do is you sponsor an organization that puts colored folk out front so they can catch the hell. And the theory being, if you can't do it to a colored person, you can't do it to a Jew. I'm talking about the NAACP.
That's right.
W.E.B. Du Bois was the only black somebody in the three founders who consisted of one Jewish woman and one Jewish man who founded the NAACP. The theory is test the waters with the colored folk and prove the point and establish it, and they wouldn't be able to do it to Jews. How did you get that for colored folk for the first half of the 20th century? There were no laws protecting black folk except the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, and the Supreme Court was applying the 14th and 15th to corporations, not black people. So you know what they relied on? The SPCA laws, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. If you couldn't do it to a dog, you couldn't do it to a Negro. And if you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. Now the way is going the other way around. If you want to get rid of masculinity and you've mislabeled it, and you keep telling a lie long enough and loud enough, a la Joseph Goebbels of the Nazi Party, their minister of propaganda, you start with the colored folk. You call it toxic masculinity, and you go after the colored again first. So if you can knock them off, you can start knocking everybody else off. And they've got all of this dysfunction where masculinity is displayed horribly on everything they've got to show damn near about black folk. Either they're gangsters where they have no scruples, no morals, no character. They don't deal with manly duties, or they're some sissified fools that can't protect anything and anybody, and they're always whining and begging, and they got some high drama. And then they convert it to starts off for the first few episodes. It might be interesting, and then it turns to a gay sales pitch. What is that? Empire.
Right.
What is that? Green law, whatever, Greenleaf or whatever.
Greenleaf.
That thing. Yeah, you just turn it into a gay program.
Man,
you have the Housewives of Atlanta. And then you find out that the executive producer is a flamer. And they're sitting up there ridiculing the hell out of women, and women are going for it.
Wow. It's so deep, man.
And then you take women's fashions. If you've got a woman who comes up with the fashion, it tends to be sleek, it glamorizes, and it offsets the female form. The shoes make their feet look sexy and stuff like that. When you get the gay boys who are setting the fashion trend, they don't appreciate what a woman's for, and they put all kinds of what they call frou-frou just thrown on the chick to see how gaudy they can get it, and she looks like a harlequin, something out of a circus with big ugly shoes on and a nasty ugly dress.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Wow.
they don't appreciate the thing about the best looking dress on a woman is the one you want to take off the quickest. But oh, we can't go there now, remember? That's wrong. You know, all through the animal kingdom, the human one included, Mother Nature has been trying to get the opposite sexes to court and be attracted to each other. All kinds of things, from antlers to, you know, to frills, to feathers, to peacock feathers. They're trying to make one gender look sexy and attracted to the others. And with the humans, it's the women that look that way. So now they're trying to make it an anathema for a woman to be attractive. They do it for themselves. Oh, hell no. And like one woman told me, she says, I'm getting sick of this. She says, all of the money I've spent over the years on beautification, getting my nails and hair done, getting my complexion taken care of, and then these fools out here trying to get men scared to respond to what I spent my whole life trying to get them to respond to.
That's right.
It is crazy. It's like they have no interest in the next generation. That's their business, but it's not our business.
Wow, Judge, you said a lot, man. It's a lot to think about.
And then one of the bad sides of the penitentiary is that you send somebody there and they spend more than a year, they come out a homosexual. They've been turned out.
You know,
so that is becoming an increasing problem in the black communities. All these boys going in thinking they're all this and that, and then get their booties wide open when they get turned out, when they get up in the joint, come out, don't give up the taste for it, and they start spreading that thing too. HIV, everything else, diseases, and strange attitudes toward what's going on. Now, it's their business, but, you know, somewhere along here, we have a drastic need coming up, and this is the tragedy. With global warming and the increasing ocean levels, which are inundating various lands, and in 50 years, there's going to be a lot less land available. That's tying up the weather patterns into something where there's guaranteed to be a lot of drought, which will impact growing seasons. We are going to double the human population on the planet before this century is out. And that means there will be food shortages, which means there will be people desperate to stay alive and will do anything they can to do what they have to do to stay breathing and on this side of the dirt. And that means that, guess what? Humankind's answer to these problems, masculinity, will be greatly needed. And where is the United States going to be? It will be victimized by a whole century of foolishness to get rid of masculinity. And mislabeled it toxic and told a damn lie long and loud enough, as per the Nazis. Goebbels, the one I mentioned just a short minute or two ago, the Nazi member of propaganda, said, tell a lie one time, it's a lie. Tell it 1,000 times, it becomes the truth. Tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and you can get anyone to believe it. If you want to get on your opponents, blame your opponents for doing what you do. And keep telling people that they are about the wrong things. And even if they aren't, the public will come to perceive that they are. And they've been telling this lie for 50 years about toxic masculinity, and foolish people are beginning to believe it. I won't be here to see it, fortunately, because I'm too old. But I do have at least one grandchild already breathing, and I want that grandchild to have a decent life. You see, so it's my obligation to say something about it, whether or not it's popular, whether or not it's politically correct. And see, politically correct is a poisonous thing. It's like all of these edifices that are built out on this landscape that are politically correct edifices, and it's a classic case you can't see the forest for the trees because these politically correct pillars are right in front of you, and you can't see the landscape around them.
Wow.
And if it's politically correct, it's usually a lie, and something's wrong with it because you don't need it to be correct. It becomes obvious if it's worth anything.
Now, it's interesting. Like you said, go back 50 years ago, a lot of things would not be happening right now. And I was thinking about that. We talk about the homosexual thing in the prisons. That Jimmy Hoffa actually addressed that on the Dick Cavett show back in the early 70s. How homosexuals should be separated from the general population to keep those things from happening. And Dick Cavett said, you got some very unpopular opinions. He said, well, I don't care. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you what it got to be done. That they got to separate the homosexuals from the general prison population. Because they're preying on people. That's what he said.
You go out here to the penal farm, and they got a whole page questionnaire about are you gay?
Mm-hmm. A whole page, huh?
Whole page.
So what do they do with their information? Do they try to separate the gays from the?
I imagine so.
Okay. But how many people are truthful about these things? Because a lot of guys in prison don't see themselves as being homosexual. They're saying they just got an urge.
Yeah, I know. That's what this sagged and bagged stuff is. So how many kids you see walking around sagged and bagged looking like they're homosexuals? That's what it's about. It started off, first time I saw it was in July 1980. One of my law partners was killed. They said it was suicide, except he supposedly shot himself from more than 5 feet away. Yeah.
Okay.
Big drug problem going on and a huge drug case where everybody wound up dead except the 2 clients I had and me. But anyway, I had to go interview somebody on a delayed appeal, and I'm up there on the yard. I see somebody sagged and bagged first time I saw it. Dude says, Lawyer Brown, you checking that out, man? I said, yeah, what the devil is that? I said, oh, man, hey, a lot of us up here doing life and long time, man. We got everything up in here except soft booty, so we gonna make us some.
Wow.
So we just making man pussy out of him, we make him dress like that so, see, when the guards ain't around, we can bend them down, pull them down, and get down. And on the cell block, we don't let him wear no pants and no drawers neither. If he's wearing that baggy shirt, that'd be his dress. See, we already done made him some jewelry off in metal shop, and Jamal done got baby sister send up here a care package with some rouge, mascara, eyeshadow, lipstick, and some fake nails and nail polish. So we gonna girl or dude all the way out. That's just to signal to everybody that to work on him so his booty get wide open. In a few more months, he gonna be like them over there wearing mini skirts and got weave in their hair. We got plenty of weave up there in the beauty salon. You know they got a beauty salon up there in the men's penitentiary for these work.
That's crazy.
And then, a couple of years, 3 years later, I saw Crisscross on either BET or MTV. They were sagged and bagged. I said, look at that. They're trying to be cool. Look like booty to be turned out in the joint.
Wow.
Then by the 1990s, it became a signal that this dude was the booty that belonged to a strong somebody up in the joint. And you got these fools running around, the lower the sag, the cooler the dude. No, you just look like a punk. I mean, it's your First Amendment right. If you want to look like you gay, that's your business. But you're acting like you're gay, you look like you're gay. How you acting like you're gay? You ain't doing man stuff. See, masculinity is not how you look. Masculinity is a set of behavioral protocols that dictate how the male apex predator on the planet is supposed to behave. If he behaves according to those protocols, then he is a man. He's a man of peace until he needs to be brave and courageous when he is needed to be. And he has prepared himself to take care of the business he needs to take care of when that event occurs. And too many of the males today are helpless. We need help on saving the boys. and the children from bullying. It's the duty of the teachers and the police and the parents. No, it isn't. It's the kid's job to learn how to handle a bully. It has been since there have been humans. That's how you become a man. That's a rite of passage to screw up your nerve to say, I'm going to bust him in his mouth if he comes messing with me one more time. And then, you know, it's like you can't even run the dozens anymore. I was out at the school just got through speaking to them, or I was going to speak, and a friend of mine who was a retired principal was out there teaching the new principal the ropes, and some kid in there gets brought in there with his teacher, and he's crying and carrying on, and my friend said, well, honey, what is the matter? He talked about my mama. He said, my mama's so fat she can't even get in the bathtub and have room for nothing but a splash of water. So I didn't laugh out loud. When his mama showed up, hell, she was a little shy of 300 pounds. Whoever it was telling the truth. You know, and he couldn't take it. I almost choked when she walked in. I thought, oh, man, that was funny.
So what happened to the boy? I mean, did the person get suspended for playing a dozen or whatever?
No. My friend said, basically, this is ridiculous. I'm going to take care of this.
But manhood training is MIA in the black community, and black males are afraid to be men. They want the women to handle everything, or these women be procreating with these weak men. I don't know which is which anymore.
Well, but the bottom line is then when they raise the boys, they aren't raising them to be men. And see, it isn't just our thing either. A very rich white guy, a billionaire, he and I got to talking a lot, you know, and he said, will you do me a favor? There's a banquet coming up. Would you sit at the table with my two daughters and explain the facts of life to them? I said, okay. So, you know, one of them was kind of plain. She was the oldest one. She had a husband. He wasn't, you know, he's kind of on the dork side. And the other one, the younger one, was in her mid-20s. She looked like a movie star. Was rich and smart, working on a PhD, and she just said, Daddy told me I could be candid with you. I said, yes, go right ahead. He was talking about, why can't I find an eligible bachelor? I said, okay, explain. She said, can I really be honest? I said, yeah, go ahead. She said, how come every boy I go out and date is like one of my girlfriends with a dick? So when I broke it down to her, she says, oh, I get it. My mother, her friend girls, my aunts, my grandmother, her friend girls, and all of them, they've been raising their boys. So what the girls get, if they get interested, is another girlfriend with a dick. I said, yep, that's it. So they have that problem too.
Right. It's the feminization of the nation, like you said. They making this is crazy, man.
Well, I mean, it's a precedent. If you read history, if you look at what happened to the British Empire right at World War I, which was, when did it end? 1918. That's 100 years ago. If you look at what was going on with them 1 century ago, it was almost exactly like what's going on now. Education was on the downswing. There was this fat trend that was going around the nation. You know, there was a reaction to World War I and some other things, but this has actually started before that. People were in charge of things who were the best term for it, if I don't want to use profanity, is big dummies who, you know, by dint of what their status was, not by dint of what they had shown they could do, were in charge, and they were the spokesman for the people, just like right now. Who do we hear from? You know, when the devil did Kim Kardashian become a spokesman for prison reform? Or her husband, Kanye Kardashian, become expert on prison reform, you know? but they get the voice that's heard by the people, or for that matter, all of that assemblage of rock stars and ne'er-do-wells that all have the drug problems and foolish problems and limited educations and little experience doing a damn thing except getting high and entertaining. They become the spokespersons for the country that the youth listen to with rapt attention. Like, what the hell do they know to tell these kids? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe some of them are exceptions, I'll say that. But for the most part, it's just utter nonsense. Wow. And that's exactly what happened to Britain, and America replaced Britain. And I'm predicting, if anybody after I'm gone wants to remember this, I'm saying the Chinese are going to take over from the United States before we get to 2118.
I mean, I can see that. China's over in Africa, really heavy. They intermingling with the population, intermixing or whatever they want to do. Yeah, they're doing what the white folks have done over the centuries.
And they're taking over the white folks because they did even better. They have stabilized the world's currencies. They have stabilized the world stock exchanges, and they own more of everybody's stock and currency than the people who issued it.
So what can we learn from the Chinese as black people? They got a lot of people, but I mean, what should we be learning from the Chinese?
Stay focused, have a plan, stick to it. And the other thing that the Chinese have is they have a long-standing culture, and everybody else is a barbarian in their eyes. So they don't have any problems with political parties. They only have one, but they have factions in the Communist Party. But they think everybody is out to push China. So they don't have any great quasi-religious, heretic, blasphemy, outlook on differences in the politics. Everybody's presumed to be acting in China's interest. And guess what? They have elders who run the things because they have the experience. They aren't foolish enough to go for new and improved, mostly new with little improved, mostly just naive and unexperienced in what they do.
That's interesting. Well, what do you think about, the situation with the Interpol chief, I guess, resigned, the Chinese guy? I mean, I guess he disappeared. He was disappeared into China. What's your take on that? You know what I'm talking about?
They have a plan. I'll tell you about a plan.
Okay.
In 1968, a professor I had, who was a visiting Soviet professor from the University of Moscow, I was teaching assistant for that professor. And they gave me a paper written by Lenin in 1919. It was translated. And this is in 1968. And when I read it, it said that he was predicting that there would be glasnost and perestroika in the last decade of the 20th century. He said at that time there will be no significant numbers of Russians with a living memory of their enslavement under the czars. At that point, Russians will have confidence in their own abilities, education, and industrial acumen, and military prowess sufficient to give them the confidence that they need to operate as a democracy. And guess what? 1990, Gorbachev was saying glasnost and perestroika. They had a plan. 1990, what is that? That is 22 years after I read the prediction that was going to happen. But yet our dumb behinds were talking about Ronald Reagan is responsible. He and his defense expenditure, he caused them to go broke. No, they had a plan. We can't have a plan in this country that lasts 2 years. That's about as long as a congressional cycle.
And our attention span is like 2 seconds or half a second. We just don't
2
pay attention.
seconds. We're up here looking at baseball,
Yeah.
NFL, NBA, NHL, Queen this, Queen that, Housewives of this, you know, the Kardashians, some stupidity, some foolishness, you know, dysfunction. And have you noticed, by the way, all of the heroes and heroines of these super series that they have are all crooks?
I know a lot of them are gay. But yeah, crooks, okay, I go with this.
Yeah, crooks.
Wow. So what, that's the new normal? They trying to make being corrupt normal now? That's the new normal?
Yes. Because guess who's doing it? Hollywood. And I'll have to say this. I have never worked around a more corrupt, detestable, backstabbing, low-down bunch than I ever had in my career out in Hollywood. There were a very few exceptions, but Hollywood is a cesspool. There are some areas in that cesspool that are like sumps at the bottom, but, you know, deeper holes in the big pit. But it was a cesspool.
I mean, like,
they stab each other in the back and giggle about it and drink wine and get drunk and then climb into bed with each other.
Oh my God. Sounds like the Hollywood and Vatican got a lot in common.
No doubt.
But what let's say about why they not addressing this issue of pedophilia in Hollywood? As soon as they try to do that, they come up with some distractions. Like, why is it not being taken seriously?
They're trying to distract attention from the key thing. They still have the casting couch, but it's boy on boy and girl on girl. And they want to take attention away from that. They even have a new thing they're doing right now. The hashtag Me Too can't get some people because there's nobody to accuse them. So what they're doing is they're trying to say, all right, he's secretly gay, you know. And the interesting story is we checked his telephone.
Wow.
You know, when he wasn't looking, he got up to go to the bathroom and we looked and he had naked men pictures on there.
Okay.
Or the one that got me was men in tutus. Like, what the hell is that?
But they men, they're not little boys, right? I mean.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's just BS. They're trying to take people down so they can't find anything, so they're inventing stuff.
And for the people who actually have been victimized, this is a horrible, like a Twilight Zone situation we're in.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't buy this stuff about some grown man in Hollywood was victimized that way, because you always had the option of busting somebody in his jaw.
Right.
And well, half of these executives that would be doing it are some nerds and dweebs. So if you're supposed to be He-Man type, you know, you've been spending all this time beautifying in the gym, pumping iron, and you can't bust somebody in his jaw for getting out of hand?
I mean, just like you can't, like, they worship these white guys. Like, you know, like Terry Crews said, you know, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, those his role models. Because he couldn't find none growing up or something like that. I was like, okay. So but like Kanye said, the MAGA head making feel like Superman, right? They looking for the white man as they daddy. The white man is daddy.
I hate to talk about it. She died on the operating table.
Oh, Judge, you breaking up. You said somebody died on the operating table?
Yeah, well, look at Kanye's mama. She dies on the operating table getting liposuction.
Right.
What a foolish way to go.
And she was an educated woman. I think she was getting a breast implants too, right?
I don't know what she's doing. Not my thing. It's just foolish. And he didn't have any man around the household. He didn't get man in him. I mean, look at some of these rappers now. They hold a microphone like it's a penis that they're trying to work with. Sucking on it and everything, going through the motions.
Well, you got some openly gay rappers like Young Thug, or they bisexual, what are they doing? Or they, we call it gender fluidity. That's some weird term.
They're just bending over and giving it up to ease their way on into the industry. That's what half this hashtag Me Too stuff is out of Hollywood. They were low on talent, and they tried to gold dig and bend over a spread and give up the boot and it didn't work because obviously they couldn't screw any better than they could perform. So they were bitter, and it's gold diggers' remorse. Well, we've got some boys that do that too.
Hmm. I mean, like, people still want to become famous in Hollywood. They know all the horror stories and the cautionary tales, but people still want to become Hollywood famous. They still want that
Well,
lifestyle.
a friend of mine and I, years and years ago, this is back in the late 60s,
Hmm.
she got discovered for a TV show. She and I went to this function at a Hollywood party where they were going to do this joke album, all right?
Hmm.
So we knew this somebody that was bragging about he was in Hollywood and he was all tight with this director and that producer. So it was a real crowded place, and they had these couches and benches along the wall of this huge playroom with a bandstand in it. So my lady friend and I, we're sitting there, and this guy uh, is standing in front of us in this crowd, and he's talking about somebody of the same name as somebody we were talking about. We knew. And he said this guy bit him when he was giving a head job earlier that day. And the other guy said, no, you did. I got the booty. So we're saying, could that be the person we knew? So the person we knew just happened to walk into the party, and one of these white executives says, there's the little B. Get over here. And he got over. TR, what do you want? Did you bite me and didn't tell me you gave him the booty? Said, well, looky here, you little B. You're going out right now. So they went out to the limo, and he just spread him and did him and came back in about half hour later. And the dude was saying, TR, you hurt me. You hurt me.
Oh, my
And,
God.
you know, we were sitting there trying not to giggle, So when the crowd thinned a little bit, we looked at him in hindsight and said, yeah, we just like that, me and so-and-so at, whatever the studio was, Warner Brothers or whatever it is, Columbia or something like that. So, yeah, we going to tell everybody we know.
Mm. Wow.
That was 1968.
Did he have a good career? I mean, was it worth it for him to bite and bend over like that?
I have no idea. I didn't keep up with him.
Wow. So that stuff is real. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was just an obnoxious somebody.
So should we be suspect of people in that industry who are wildly successful? Yeah, they all done?
You should be.
Okay.
You should be.
Okay.
The straight black males, they try to suppress.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I mean, let's put it this way. When I started my show in 1998, it started in mid-September that year, in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't been there a month and a half. They had a big party at the Beverly Hilton Hotel where I was staying.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down, and I was a bachelor, and I was having a good time dancing with the pretty women.
Right.
So one woman I slow danced several consecutive dances with, and we exchanged phone numbers. She excused herself to the ladies' room. So I went, sat back down at my table. Came up and tapped me on my shoulder and said, you know that girl over there? And pointed to somebody. I said, yeah. She said, do you know that clown came up and approached me as I was leaving the ladies' room and asked me if I would say something negative about you for a good sum of money that would make it worth my while? I said, no joke, punk. Mm-hmm. And then I went around and checked with all of the girls I danced with, and he had approached them with the same offer. So what wound up happening is I got a woman to help me out who I had hired to do my PR work. She'd been a Miss Washington, D.C. And we invented this fictitious woman. We filled out some affidavits that were notarized, and we filed them with Human Resources with the studio. We got receipts for when we filed them and seals on the outside of the envelopes and stamped on the outside when they were delivered. So these fools come up with a supposed affidavit from this fictitious woman that I was doing something. So when they have all this hullabaloo over there in human resources, I had my lawyer with me, and I just said, bring the following items over from human resources, you F's. What? I said, bring them over. So when they brought them over and they opened up, they saw they'd been set up. So they backed off of it, and soon enough they were gone. So it's like that was in 1999.
Okay.
You know, but see, that's what they were trying to do with Cosby. He didn't have that kind of sophistication because he didn't have that real world thing like I had. I didn't come into this, you know, from day one. I came in when I was over 50 years old. This was nothing new to me.
Right. The shakedown and the extortion. But Cosby, like, it's like he's an educated fool. No disrespect to Cosby. Like, he couldn't figure out what they've been doing to him for the last 20-something years.
Well, see, the deal is there's a whole lot more to it that trying to get NBC and getting the money together to actually get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was threatening. You know, Oprah's own, it's so crank and crackpot. You know, that ain't real. That's, and then Roger King was running that for her until he suddenly died of a heart attack, and now some white lesbians own it.
Really own, huh?
Yeah, they do. You go in their headquarters, the only blacks you see are one or two little gay boys in little tight cuff pants and
skinny jeans
around, and one or two little black girls, you know, with bald heads that have on plaid shirts, bib overalls, and work boots. And then everybody else in there upstairs in the executive offices are white lesbians.
Oh my God, these black celebrities ain't worth a damn, man. I don't understand. What's the point of being a black celebrity? You got no real power or influence over your career or anything, over your image.
Yeah, you might be getting a lot for it. And see, I'll tell you what I got one contract granted when one of these executives said, I said, well, why is he getting paid more than me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm number two ranked, and this guy is way down 127. He said, well, you know, white guys take more money for what they do, you know? I said, oh, you just said it, fool.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they did that, all the discussion ended. All right, get the paperwork together. That's what I'm getting.
And you got it, right?
I got it.
Wow. But you actually knew your worth, whereas it's like Cosby didn't have no understanding who he was or his worth or his value.
I know. It's like what they paid somebody black was big for what somebody black was getting.
Mm-hmm.
All right? But it was nowhere near what you get for white folk. Like, for example, who do you think has sold more CDs than any other artist in history over the course of one 10-year period of time? What artist?
Michael Jackson?
No.
Whitney Houston?
No.
Who?
It isn't Frank Sinatra. It isn't Elvis Presley. It isn't the Beatles.
Fast Domino? I don't know who.
No, it's Eminem.
Okay. Wow.
And he ran off with some black music that he's actually being more honest with, talking about these no good women than black rappers are.
Right.
You would call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I mean,
but he sold more CDs than any other artist in any given 10-year period.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. But he was co-signed by a black artist, Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre had to give him that.
Yeah, and he ain't making as much as his protege.
That's interesting. But white men hate their mamas. I mean, that's the culture. Because, you know, Eminem had a lot of raps talking about his mom, just talking bad about her, and the white man didn't let the white woman vote till 1920.
Yeah, but you see, the deal that you get with white guys is they ID with their dads, we ID with our mamas.
And that's why they on top, because they go with the dad.
Yeah. Your mama is a nice appliance. You love mama, but his dad that you get everything from, unless something's wrong with him.
And when you said, I'm thinking about Donald Trump and his father relationship. His father stood by him, but his father sent him to the military academy. The only child he sent to the military academy that he had, but his brother ended up drinking himself to death for whatever reason. Donald Trump had, whatever they say about Donald Trump, he got some type of discipline. He wouldn't be able to be at the position yet without discipline. He ain't stupid.
And I think he's gaming everybody who doesn't get it. In other words, he's trying to tear down the Democratic Party, he's trying to tear down the Republican Party, and he's trying to put the press in place.
I'm glad he's doing that. I think he's a blessing in disguise for doing that, because he's waking people up. Because it's fake news.
What did I tell you about 2 years ago? I said we need to vote for the candidate that heightens the contradiction, not the lesser of two evils.
Yes, sir. And he was the one, and he'll be the one in 2020, I believe. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. The only chance the Democrats have is if they come up with a Bernie Sanders.
They gonna accept that. They don't want him. I mean, they just don't want him. His own party don't want him.
Because he's not part of that girl thing.
Yeah. That's why I think Michelle Obama gonna end. They gonna try to draft her to run. I really do believe that.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you couldn't pay me to vote for Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Especially not after that sorry spectacle her hubby provided. And then Kamala Harris, you couldn't pay me to vote for her. You couldn't pay me to vote for one of those old white women either.
No Elizabeth Warren, none of them, huh?